First contact. The night was quiet at the remote outpost deep in the heart of a barren desert. Dr. Ethan Carter sat alone in his lab, surrounded by blinking monitors and the low hum of machinery. For the past 5 years, he had worked tirelessly on the SETI program, searching for any sign of intelligent life beyond Earth. Most nights were uneventful, filled with static and meaningless signals, but tonight was different. A sharp beep broke the silence. Ethan's monitor flashed red, displaying a series of patterns he had never seen before. His heart raced as he leaned closer. The signal wasn't random, it was structured, deliberate. Someone or something was trying to communicate. Ethan's fingers flew across the keyboard, decoding the signal. A message appeared on the screen: "We are coming. Do not fear." He froze, staring at the words, but before he could react, the lab's lights flickered and a strange hum filled the air. Outside, the night sky lit up as a bright, shimmering object descended rapidly, landing just beyond the outpost. Ethan grabbed his flashlight and cautiously stepped outside. The desert wind whipped around him, carrying the scent of burnt ozone. In the distance, he saw the outline of a sleek, metallic craft. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, smooth and seamless, as though it had been carved from a single piece of metal. As he approached, a figure emerged from the craft. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. It was a woman, at least she appeared to be. Her skin had a faint silver sheen, and her eyes glowed softly like twin moons. She was tall and elegant, with a presence that felt both alien and strangely human. "Are you real?" Ethan stammered, his voice barely audible. The woman tilted her head, studying him with an expression of curiosity and urgency. "Dr. Ethan Carter," she said, her voice melodic yet firm, "I need your help." Ethan blinked in shock. "You know my name." She stepped closer, her movements fluid and graceful. "I have studied your species. You are a biologist, a creator of life. I have come a long way to find you." Ethan's mind raced with questions. Who was she? Why had she come to him? And what did she mean by, creator of life? Before he could speak, the woman said something that sent a chill down his spine. "Make me a mother." "What?" Ethan's voice cracked. He stared at her, unable to process her words. "What are you talking about?" "My species is dying," she explained, her glowing eyes filled with sorrow. "We have lost the ability to reproduce. I am the last of my kind, and I need your help to ensure our survival. You have the knowledge. You can save us." Ethan shook his head, backing away. This is insane. I don't even know who you are." "I am called Syria," she said, her voice softening. "I am not here to harm you. I only seek your help." Ethan glanced at the craft behind her, its surface shimmering under the moonlight. The scientist in him was fascinated, drawn to the possibilities of what Syria represented, but the human in him was terrified. This was too much, too fast. "Why me?" he asked finally. "Out of everyone on Earth, why come to me?" Syria hesitated, as if choosing her words carefully. "You are one of the few who understand the creation of life at its core. Your work with artificial cells and DNA synthesis is groundbreaking. But more than that, I have studied your heart. You will not turn away from someone in need." Ethan felt a pang of guilt. She wasn't wrong. Despite his fear, he couldn't ignore the desperation in her voice or the weight of her words. But this was bigger than anything he had ever faced. "Even if I wanted to help, I wouldn't know where to start," he said. This isn't just biology. It's alien biology." Syria took a step closer, her silver skin glinting under the pale moonlight. "I can guide you. Our DNA is not so different from yours. But we must act quickly. Others know I am here, and they will come for me." "Others?" Ethan's stomach tightened. "Who?" She didn't answer. Instead, she turned her gaze to the horizon, where a faint, unnatural light flickered in the distance. There isn't much time. If they capture me, they will destroy everything, me, you, and your entire world. Ethan's pulse quickened. He wanted to refuse, to tell her to leave and never come back, but the look in her eyes stopped him. Beneath her alien features, there was a raw, unmistakable plea, a call for help that he couldn't ignore. "All right," he said, his voice trembling. "I'll help you. But you need to tell me everything. No secrets." Syria nodded, a glimmer of hope in her glowing eyes. "Thank you, Dr. Carter. You have made the right choice." Before Ethan could respond, a deepening roar shattered the night. He turned to see a fleet of lights rapidly approaching from the sky. Syria's expression darkened. "They found us." Ethan's heart pounded as the lights drew closer, casting long shadows across the desert. He didn't know what he had just agreed to, but one thing was clear, his life would never be the same. A dangerous proposition. The silence in the lab was shattered by the distant roar of engines. Ethan Carter's heart raced as he glanced at the glowing figure of Syria, the alien woman who had appeared at his doorstep with a plea that defied all logic. Outside, the approaching lights grew brighter, and the ground trembled beneath the weight of incoming vehicles. "They're here," Syria whispered, her glowing eyes narrowing. Her voice was steady, but Ethan could sense the urgency. "We must leave now." Ethan hesitated. His instincts screamed at him to run, to distance himself from this impossible situation, yet his curiosity and a strange sense of duty anchored him to the spot. "Who are they?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Why are they after you?" Syria's expression darkened. "They are not your allies, Ethan. They are hunters, scavengers of power and technology. If they capture me, they will extract everything I know, and then they will turn their sights on your planet." Ethan's mind reeled. The idea of Earth becoming a target in an intergalactic conflict was overwhelming. "And what exactly do you know that's worth chasing you halfway across the galaxy?" he demanded. Syria stepped closer, her luminous presence both alien and oddly calming. "I am the last of my species, Ethan. My knowledge of bioengineering and advanced genetics is unlike anything your world has ever seen. In their hands, it could mean the end of countless civilizations, including yours." The sound of tires crunching against the desert sand snapped Ethan out of his thoughts. He looked toward the window and saw black, unmarked vehicles surrounding the outpost. Men in tactical gear spilled out, their movements precise and purposeful. This wasn't a rescue operation, it was an invasion. "You have to trust me," Syria said, her voice cutting through his panic. "Take what you need and follow me." Ethan's hand shook as he grabbed his laptop and a hard drive containing years of research. As much as he wanted to question everything, there was no time. Syria gestured toward a hidden passage at the back of the lab. "This way." They slipped through the narrow corridor, the walls vibrating as heavy boots stormed the building behind them. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. He wasn't cut out for this. He was a scientist, not some action hero. But Syria moved with purpose, her every step calculated and deliberate. The passage led to a hidden garage where a sleek, futuristic craft awaited. It was smaller than the one she had arrived in, but just as otherworldly. "Get in," she commanded, her voice leaving no room for argument. Ethan hesitated for a fraction of a second before climbing into the craft. The interior was unlike anything he had ever seen, smooth, seamless panels that lit up as Syria touched them. Within moments, the craft hummed to life, lifting off the ground with a soft whir. As they ascended into the night sky, Ethan looked down to see the agents swarming his lab. Flashes of gunfire erupted as they tried to shoot down the craft, but the bullets dissipated harmlessly against a shimmering energy field. "How did they even know you were here?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling. "They'd been tracking me for weeks," Syria replied, her focus on the controls. I had hoped to remain hidden long enough to find someone like you, someone who could help me. And what exactly do you want from me? Ethan asked, the weight of her earlier words pressing heavily on his mind. You said you wanted me to make you a mother. What does that even mean? Syria sighed, her glowing eyes dimming slightly. My species was once vibrant and vast, but we were struck by a genetic plague that rendered us infertile. Our technology allowed us to survive for centuries, but without reproduction, we are doomed. I am the last of my kind, Ethan. If I fail, everything we were, our knowledge, our culture, our legacy, will be lost forever. Ethan struggled to process her words. The idea of creating life, of merging alien and human biology, was both thrilling and terrifying. Even if I wanted to help, this isn't something that can happen overnight. We'd need labs, equipment. I have the resources, Syria interrupted. What I lack is someone with your expertise and creativity. Our DNA shares surprising similarities with yours. With your help, we can create a hybrid, a bridge between our species. Ethan leaned back, his mind racing. The implications were staggering. Creating a hybrid life form could push the boundaries of science in ways he had never imagined. But it also posed risks he couldn't begin to calculate. What happens if we succeed, he asked. What's the endgame? Syria's expression softened. If we succeed, my people's legacy will endure. The hybrid will carry the best of both our species, a symbol of hope for the galaxy. But if we fail? Her voice trailed off, the unspoken consequence hanging heavily in the air. Before Ethan could respond, the craft jolted violently. Alarms blared, and Syria's hands flew over the controls. We're being pursued, she said, her tone grim. Hold on. Ethan gripped the seat as the craft plunged into a sudden dive. Through the viewport, he saw a sleek black ship closing in fast, its weapons glowing ominously. Syria twisted the controls, weaving through the darkness in a desperate attempt to evade their attackers. The craft shuddered as a blast grazed its side. Ethan's heart pounded as sparks erupted around them. What do we do now? He shouted. Syria's eyes glowed brighter, her determination cutting through the chaos. We fight. With a flick of her wrist, a panel opened, revealing an array of glowing orbs. She grabbed one and hurled it into the air. The orb expanded into a bright, pulsing shield that engulfed their craft just as another blast struck. The pursuing ship faltered momentarily, blinded by the light. Syria seized the opportunity, sending their craft hurtling into the void of space. The silence that followed was deafening, the only sound the labored breaths of both Syria and Ethan as the danger faded. Ethan looked at Syria, his mind awash with questions and doubts. This is insane, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. But I guess I'm in. Syria gave him a faint smile, her glowing eyes softening. Thank you, Ethan. You won't regret this. But as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning, and that the true danger was yet to come. Escape in secrets. The stars blurred into streaks of light as Syria's craft zipped through the void of space, weaving between invisible currents. Ethan Carter sat stiffly in his seat, gripping the edges tightly as the alien woman piloted with unmatched precision. The silence between them was thick with unspoken tension, broken only by the hum of the craft and the occasional alert from its advanced systems. Ethan finally found his voice. All right, we escaped. Now tell me the truth. Everything. Who are those people, and why are they willing to chase you to the ends of the universe? Syria didn't look at him, her glowing fingers gliding over the controls. They are the Aegis Collective, a group of intergalactic scavengers who thrive on the destruction of others. They harvest technology, knowledge, and power, using it to dominate weaker civilizations. My people fought them for centuries, but when the plague hit us, we became vulnerable. They wiped out my planet and took everything they could. Ethan frowned, his scientist's mind trying to process her story. And you survived? Barely, she said, her voice soft but firm. I was hidden, placed in stasis by my people's last scientists. When I woke, I was alone. My world was gone. The weight of her words pressed on Ethan's chest. He couldn't imagine the kind of loss she had endured. And now they're after you because... Syria's glowing eyes finally met his. Because I carry the last remnants of my species, genetic data, cultural archives, and the knowledge of our greatest minds. To them, I am both a prize and a threat. Ethan exhaled slowly, the enormity of the situation settling in. And your plan is to create a hybrid to carry on your legacy through biology? Yes, she said simply. Our DNA is compatible with yours. A hybrid would not only ensure the survival of my species but also create a bond between us, a new being with the strengths of both worlds. Ethan rubbed his temples, the stress of the past few hours catching up to him. This is insane. I'm a biologist, not a miracle worker. Even if I could help you, where would we even begin? I don't have the equipment or the knowledge to work with alien genetics. Syria turned back to the controls, a faint smile on her lips. That's why we're going to my sanctuary. Sanctuary? Ethan repeated. You have a lab somewhere. Not a lab, she said, her voice tinged with sadness. A piece of my home. Before Ethan could press further, the craft slowed, and the stars returned to their normal pinpoints of light. In the distance, a massive object loomed, floating silently in the void. It was a station of some kind, its architecture elegant and alien, with glowing patterns etched into its surface like veins of light. What is that? Ethan asked, leaning forward in awe. Syria's voice softened. The Arkansas. It was built by my people as a refuge, a repository of everything we were. It's the only piece of my world that remains. As the craft approached, the station seemed to wake, its lights growing brighter and its doors opening with a soft hum. They docked smoothly, and Syria led Ethan into the Ark's interior. The air inside was cool and faintly sweet, carrying the subtle hum of energy. The walls were lined with glowing panels displaying images, texts, and data, an archive of an entire civilization. Ethan stopped, staring at the sheer enormity of it all. This is incredible. It's like a museum of your people. It's more than that, Syria said, guiding him deeper into the station. The Ark was designed to preserve our species. It contains genetic samples, cultural records, and the technology to rebuild. But I can't do it alone. That's why I need you. They entered a chamber filled with strange machines, their surfaces smooth and polished, humming with an energy Ethan couldn't begin to understand. In the center of the room was a pod, its interior glowing faintly. This is where it begins, Syria said, gesturing to the pod. With your help, we can create a hybrid that carries the essence of both our worlds. Ethan approached the pod cautiously, his scientific curiosity battling with his fear. This technology, it's light years ahead of anything we have on Earth. I wouldn't even know how to use it. You won't have to, Syria said, stepping beside him. The Ark's systems will guide you. I will guide you. Ethan looked at her, seeing the determination in her glowing eyes. And what happens if we fail? Syria hesitated, her expression darkening. If we fail, the Aegis will find us. They will destroy the Ark, and with it, the last hope of my people. And they will turn their attention to Earth. The weight of her words settled heavily on Ethan. He didn't want to believe it, but everything he had seen so far told him she was telling the truth. This wasn't just about her species, it was about humanity's future as well. All right, he said finally, his voice steady. I'll help you. But we do this my way. No secrets, no shortcuts. If we're going to create something, we need to do it right. Syria nodded, her glowing eyes softening. Thank you, Ethan. You won't regret this. Before they could begin, an alarm blared, echoing through the chamber. Syria's expression shifted instantly. They found us. Ethan's heart sank as he looked at her. The Aegis? She nodded, her voice grim. They're here. The Ark trembled as explosions echoed in the distance. Ethan turned to Syria, his fear replaced by resolve. What do we do? Syria's glowing eyes blazed with determination. We fight, and we protect the future we're about to create. As the walls shook and the alarms grew louder, Ethan realized there was no turning back. The battle for survival had just begun. Into the void. The Ark shuddered violently as the Aegis Collective's fleet bore down on them, their weapons slamming into the station's protective shields. Inside the sanctuary, Ethan clung to the edge of a console, his heart pounding in rhythm with the blaring alarms. Syria stood at the central control panel, her glowing hands flying over the intricate interface as she tried to stabilize the situation. They're breaking through the outer defenses, she announced, her voice steady despite the chaos. We have minutes, maybe less, before they reach the core. Ethan tried to make sense of the surreal situation. You're telling me we're on an alien space station, under attack by space pirates, and the only thing standing between them and wiping out humanity is us? Syria turned to him, her luminous eyes narrowing. Yes, and unless you want to be dissected by the Aegis, you'll need to trust me. Right, Ethan muttered, forcing himself to focus. What's the plan? Syria's expression was resolute. We can't fight them head-on. The Ark wasn't built for war. But we have something they don't, a portal generator. It's a relic of my people's golden age, a device capable of creating wormholes to almost anywhere in the galaxy. Ethan's eyebrows shot up. You're saying we can just teleport out of here? Not quite, Syria replied. The generator requires precise coordinates, and I don't have enough power to sustain a long jump. But there's a system nearby, a hidden planet on the edge of the galaxy. It's isolated, uncharted by the Aegis, and equipped with an ancient facility where we can continue our work. Ethan glanced at the console where holographic maps flickered in rapid succession. How do you even know it's still functional? I don't, Syria admitted. But it's our best chance. If we stay here, the Ark and everything inside it will be destroyed. Another tremor rocked the station, and Ethan realized there was no time for doubt. Fine, he said, his voice firm. Let's do it. Syria activated the portal generator, and a glowing ring of light appeared in the center of the chamber, its energy crackling like a living storm. The hum of the machinery grew louder, vibrating through the floor. Get ready, she said, her tone urgent. Once I activate the jump, we'll have seconds to get through. Ethan nodded, clutching his bag of research tightly. I hope this works. As the portal stabilized, a deafening explosion ripped through the station, and the lights flickered dangerously. Syria's eyes widened. They breached the outer hull. We need to move now. Without hesitation, she grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him toward the portal. The edges of the glowing ring distorted, shimmering with an otherworldly light. Ethan hesitated for a split second, staring into the swirling vortex. It was like looking into infinity. Jump! Syria shouted, shoving him forward. Ethan stepped into the portal, and the world dissolved around him. For a moment, he felt weightless, his body suspended in a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes. Then, with a jarring thud, he landed on solid ground. He opened his eyes to find himself standing in the middle of a dense alien jungle. Towering trees with bioluminescent leaves stretched toward a sky filled with unfamiliar constellations. The air was thick with the hum of unseen creatures, their calls echoing in the distance. Syria appeared beside him, slightly disoriented but composed. She glanced around, her glowing eyes scanning the environment. We made it, she said, a hint of relief in her voice. Ethan struggled to catch his breath. Where are we? This is Tias, Syria explained. It was one of our hidden research worlds, kept off the galactic maps to protect it from the Aegis. If the facility is still intact, we'll find everything we need to complete the hybridization process. Ethan nodded, trying to suppress the overwhelming sense of awe and fear. And if it's not intact? Syria's expression darkened. Then we're on our own. As they began their trek through the jungle, Ethan couldn't help but marvel at the strange beauty of the planet. The plants glowed softly, casting an ethereal light on the ground. In the distance, he spotted a massive waterfall cascading into a crystalline lake. Despite the danger, there was something almost magical about the place. But the peace didn't last. A sudden rustling in the bushes made Ethan freeze. "What was that?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. Syria motioned for him to stay quiet, her glowing eyes narrowing as she scanned the surroundings. The rustling grew louder, and a low growl rumbled through the air. From the shadows emerged a creature unlike anything Ethan had ever seen, a towering, six-legged predator with iridescent scales and razor-sharp claws. The creature snarled, its eyes locking onto them. Ethan's heart raced as he stumbled backward. "What do we do?" he hissed. Syria didn't answer. Instead, she raised her hand, and a small device on her wrist emitted a high-pitched frequency. The creature flinched, its growl turning into a whimper as it backed away into the shadows. "What was that?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling. "A territorial guardian," Syria replied, lowering her hand. "They protect the jungle from intruders. We're lucky this one wasn't hungry." "Lucky," Ethan muttered, still shaken. "That's not what I call it." They continued their journey, eventually reaching a clearing where the remnants of an ancient structure rose from the ground. The facility was massive, its architecture similar to the Ark but weathered by time. Syria approached the entrance, her fingers brushing against the faded symbols etched into the metal. "This is it," she said, her voice filled with both hope and sadness. "The last sanctuary of my people." Ethan followed her inside, the air cool and still. The facility's interior was surprisingly intact, its systems flickering to life as Syria activated them. Holograms appeared, displaying data and blueprints that Ethan could barely comprehend. Syria turned to him, her glowing eyes filled with determination. "We have everything we need here, but the Aegis won't stop hunting us. We need to move quickly." Ethan nodded, the weight of their mission settling heavily on his shoulders. As the facility's systems hummed around them, he realized there was no turning back. The fate of two species, and perhaps the galaxy itself, now rested in their hands. The betrayal. The ancient facility on Tias was alive with light and sound, its systems humming back to life as Syria worked tirelessly to activate its core. Ethan Carter stood in the main chamber, surrounded by holographic projections of genetic structures, alien blueprints, and streams of data he couldn't begin to decipher. "Are you sure this place is secure?" Ethan asked, glancing nervously at the entrance behind them. The memory of the Aegis assault on the Ark was still fresh, and the jungle outside felt anything but safe. Syria didn't look up from the console. "For now, yes. Tias is off their maps, and its natural predators make landing here dangerous for most species. But we can't afford to stay here longer than necessary." Ethan approached her, his curiosity outweighing his fear. "What exactly are we doing here? You said this facility has everything we need, but I still don't understand how we're supposed to create a hybrid life form." Syria turned to face him, her glowing eyes filled with a strange mixture of determination and sorrow. "This facility was built by my people as a research station for advanced bioengineering. It has the tools to combine our DNA and create a new life form, a hybrid that carries the strength of both our species." Ethan frowned. "You make it sound so clinical. We're talking about creating a person, Syria. A living, breathing individual." Her expression softened. "I understand your hesitation, Ethan, but this isn't just about science. It's about survival. Without this hybrid, my species will be gone forever. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. All right, show me what we're working with. Syria gestured toward a glowing pod in the center of the room. It was sleek and alien, its surface etched with intricate patterns that pulsed with light. This is the Genesis pod, she explained. It's designed to incubate and accelerate the development of a new life form. With your knowledge of human biology and my guidance, we can make this work. Ethan hesitated, staring at the pod. The ethical implications of what they were about to do weighed heavily on him. Was he really about to cross a line no human had ever dared to approach? But before he could voice his concerns, the facility's lights flickered, and a low rumble echoed through the chamber. Syria's expression darkened. Something's wrong. What now? Ethan asked, his voice rising in panic. Syria moved to another console, her hands flying over the controls. It's a proximity alert. Someone or something is approaching the facility. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. The Aegis? Syria shook her head. No, it's a single ship. Smaller, unarmed. Before Ethan could process her words, the main screen lit up with a live feed of the jungle outside. A lone figure emerged from the dense foliage, clad in an advanced environmental suit. The helmet's visor glinted in the light, concealing the figure's face. Who the hell is that? Ethan asked, his voice tight. Syria's glowing eyes narrowed. A tracker. The Aegis must have hired them to find me. Great, Ethan muttered. So what do we do? Fight? Run? Syria didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stared at the screen, her expression unreadable. Finally, she turned to Ethan. Stay here. I'll deal with this. Before Ethan could protest, Syria disappeared through the main corridor, leaving him alone in the chamber. He paced nervously, his mind racing with questions. Who was this tracker, and why did Syria seem so unsettled? Minutes passed like hours. Finally, Syria returned, her face tense. We need to talk. Ethan crossed his arms. What's going on? Who was that? Syria hesitated, then said, the tracker was hired to find me, but they weren't sent by the Aegis. They were sent by a faction within your own government. Ethan's jaw dropped. What? Why would they care about you? Syria's gaze didn't waver. Because of what I know. Your world is not as isolated as you think, Ethan. Parts of your government are aware of intergalactic civilizations. They see me as an opportunity to gain an edge, both technologically and militarily. Ethan felt a sinking feeling in his chest. And you didn't think to tell me this before? I didn't want to involve you more than necessary, Syria admitted. But it seems I underestimated how far your kind would go to exploit me. Ethan stepped back, anger and betrayal boiling inside him. So what now? Do we just keep running, or do you have some other secret you haven't told me? Syria's eyes flashed with a mixture of guilt and determination. There is one other option, but you won't like it. Ethan folded his arms. Try me. Syria hesitated, then said, I can give them what they want, partial access to my knowledge. In exchange, they'll leave us alone to complete the hybridization process. Ethan's blood ran cold. You're seriously considering handing over your people's secrets to a faction of humans you don't even trust? That's insane. It's the only way to buy us time, Syria said firmly. If we don't finish the process, it won't matter who wins. My species will be gone, and your planet will be at the Aegis' mercy. Ethan shook his head, his mind reeling. And how do I know you're not just using me? For all I know, you've been manipulating me this whole time. Syria stepped closer, her glowing eyes filled with pain. You have every right to doubt me, Ethan, but everything I've done for survival, for hope. I need you to trust me, just a little longer. Ethan stared at her, his emotions warring inside him. He wanted to believe her, to trust that she was telling the truth, but a small voice in the back of his mind whispered that there was more to this than she was letting on. Finally, he said, "All right. But if I find out you're hiding anything else, anything, I'm done." Syria nodded, her expression unreadable. Understood. As the facility's lights flickered again and the sound of distant machinery hummed through the air, Ethan realized one thing with certainty: trust was a fragile thing in the void of space, and betrayal could come from any direction. The experiment. The alien facility hummed with life, its advanced systems illuminating the chamber with an eerie blue glow. Ethan Carter stood in front of the Genesis pod, its smooth surface reflecting his uncertain expression. The facility had prepared everything for the next step, the hybridization process, but the weight of what they were about to do felt heavier than ever. Syria's voice broke the silence. "The pod is ready. We have one chance to make this work." Ethan turned to face her, his arms crossed. "You say that like this is just another experiment, but we're talking about creating a life, an entirely new being. What if something goes wrong?" Syria's glowing eyes softened. "I understand your fear, Ethan, but we don't have the luxury of doubt. My species is gone, and the Aegis is closing in. This hybrid is our only chance at survival." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "All right, walk me through the process one more time." Syria stepped closer to the console, her silver fingers dancing over the controls. A holographic display appeared, showing a detailed sequence of the hybridization procedure. "The Genesis pod will combine a carefully selected sample of my DNA with yours. The ARC systems have already calculated the compatibility and optimized the genetic coding to ensure stability." "And how long will it take?" Ethan asked, his voice tinged with skepticism. "The pod accelerates the growth process," Syria explained. "Within days, the hybrid will reach a stage equivalent to early childhood. From there, development slows to a normal pace." Ethan's eyebrows shot up. "Days? You're telling me we're going to create a sentient being in less than a week?" Syria nodded. "It's the only way. We don't have years to wait." Ethan stared at the pod, his stomach churning with unease. "And what about the hybrid? What kind of life are we creating? Will it even have a choice in any of this?" Syria's expression darkened. "Choice is a luxury we can't afford right now. This isn't just about survival, it's